It's Nolan. Hey, we ain't got a lot of time left. If the rap game fall, bet I did this shit to death. No motivation to stretch it. Focused on ethics, try to survive in my section. Shit is depressing. Used to care about niggas. Now I give a fuck about your whereabouts. Publishing, I'm clearing house, nigga. Music on shows, I'm on Paramount, nigga. Killing every rapper breathing, and I'm bailing out quicker, single handed. Never panic, I get disbanded. Reprimanded, ass handed, then they vanish. Hip hop, nigga, I perfected every element with 4-finger rings on. Call me Captain Planet. Street shit done. These niggas scum, I don't appreciate none. Nigga thinking nigga stunt. Came from a village, bumping Dilla in the slum, moving on another pillar. I'm the realest that they come. I don't need no squad. My rap clean like Pino on the beats like Ringo Starr. Blast on niggas like Beano bars, doing numbers in the bank like bingo cards. My respect level lower, next level flow us in the text. Bitch, your ex come and blow us. Old school niggas still dressed in below us in the jet, watching Plex while I flex on them niggas that's below us. What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. As y'all see, we back repping the dad gang. If you like these hats, you know what I'm saying, got the bold print for all my fathers out there. And for everybody that's, got a dope father in your life, you know what I'm saying, or you dealing with somebody who's a great father to your children, go ahead and use my code down below in the description. I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen for you. You know what I'm saying? These make for really great gifts. So, yeah, go ahead and look out for them. Again, the code is in the description. I'll put it up for a second. J Nolan 58020. You get 15% off. Now, as we get into the show, we're going to be talking about Beyonce being snubbed once again in a country music award show. It seems that the country music genre is just not open to embracing her. We talked about this with the whole CMAs and everything like that. And of course, when we speak about this, we also have to acknowledge that B did come out and say that Cowboy Carter was not necessarily a country album. It was a Beyonce album, but it definitely explored the context and the genres of country. You got some bluegrass, you got some folk in there, you had some R&B, you had some hip hop fusion, you know what I'm saying? But the foundation of the project was built off of the historic archetypes that created country music when black people were originally the founders of that style, right? She went on to give a lot of different predecessors their credit. She gave a lot of newcomers an opportunity to express themselves and be a part of it, whether that be in the production, the writing, and or the features. So I think what she did in the space of country music and influencing not only the next generation of black artists that might want to go in that direction, but also the fashion, the style. She made a pretty big splash with this project, not to mention just the overall success of the musical element of this album, which is most important anyway. I think she definitely deserved to win something from the country music award shows that have taken place this year, but unfortunately she hasn't. As a matter of fact, she received 0 nominations at the CMA Awards, if I'm not mistaken. But now at the People's Choice Country Awards, she was nominated in 17 different categories and still walked away with 0 awards. All right. So let's get into it. Beyonce continues to be snubbed in the Country Music World's Awards season, coming out empty-handed at the 2024 People's Choice Country Awards, despite receiving the second highest number of nominations this year. So that goes and shows y'all, out of all the people that contributed in this space, in this genre this year, she had the most, or at least the second most, right, amount of nominations. Ahead of the event, which took place On September 26th, B was up for a staggering 17 noms for her chart-topping Cowboy Carter album. All winners at the People's Country Music Awards, a self-proclaimed award show for the people and by the people, were decided by fan votes during a pretty tight voting period, which started on August 13th and ended August 23rd. So they had 10 days to vote. I don't know how many votes were actually cast. I don't know how many people actually knew about this award show and the votes. I mean, it was only a 10-day window, which is a pretty short time period. But, you know, again, we're dealing with the powers that be. And when we talk about the powers that be, we're also talking about the fans. We're also talking about the people that historically have kept black people out of the space of country. Even K. Michelle, who a lot of people try to give credit or try to place above Beyonce in this particular space. We tend to always get somebody that wants to speak about her. She's even faced a little bit of, resistance, if you will. Not to say that they're not embracing her, but it took some time for them to really get acclimated to her. She had to go take part for like a year at the Grand Ole Opry and go do like basically, I wouldn't say underground shows, but local shows in Nashville in order for them to accept her and ingratiate her into the space, which I think is great for her. But if you're a studied musician and you're going in and you're bringing in people that understand what you're doing, and you put out a high quality album and it outperforms the rest of the genre, you should be considered in that genre. You should be awarded in that genre. I'm not saying she should have swept and got 17 awards, but I think one or two would have sufficed. But of course, again, these are fans in that space also that are gatekeeping her out, which I think really drives the point home. If she's not winning anything, I think it stands out even further that her objective was complete. To show y'all, even when I give y'all the history, even when I give y'all the musicality, even when I tap into the other zones and give you historical context as to our footprint in this space, we still don't get the love. Even though I'm teaching you motherfuckers as I go, some shit that y'all would have never looked into most likely. Okay, cool. Right? Shabuzi, however, did end up winning an award, and during his speech at the show, he made it a point to go ahead and thank Beyonce, and he called her amazing. So he at least got to spread some love and adore some love and adulation to Beyonce on his behalf at the show. Cowboy Carter, despite not picking up any awards in the country music genre this year, has been a major success since its release in March. The album debuted at the top of the Billboard 200 with over 407,000 album equivalent units in the first week, making for the biggest sales week of 2024 at that time, though it has been one-upped by Taylor Swift. Okay? 23 of the album's 27 songs also made it to the Billboard Hot 100 chart, bringing the Houston native's career total Billboard Hot 100 entries to the number of 106. Okay? She is now just the 17th artist and only the third woman in history to score over 100 entries since the Hot 100 was launched in the year of 1958. But again, despite this, Beyonce was again snubbed also at the Country Music Awards and at this People's Choice Country Awards. Beyonce's father, Matthew, blamed it solely on her race. However, Miss Dolly Parton, who did contribute to the album and showed support, she said that she kind of had a different opinion. Okay, she says there's so many wonderful country artists that I guess probably the country music field probably thought, well, we can't really leave out some of the ones that spend their whole life doing it. She says, but I didn't even realize Beyonce wasn't nominated, and this is about the CMAs, not the People's Choice, until somebody asked me that question, but it was a wonderful album. She can be very, very proud of, and I think everybody in country music welcomed her and thought that that was good. Miss Dolly, I call cap. If everybody was welcoming her, I think this would be a totally different narrative. I think this would be a totally different story. I would be making a totally different video right now. Again, I'm not saying that she's supposed to be handed anything. I'm not saying she's supposed to walk in the room and everybody's supposed to bow and kiss her feet. I know there's a whole fan base out there that lives for that. But for me, I feel like if I go make an R&B album, y'all know me, I'm not a singer. But if I go and make an R&B album that outperforms the rest of the R&B genre, I'm collaborating and working with people that are ingratiated into the R&B culture. I'm even giving you um spotlights on the new and budding talent in the R&B genre that y'all are going to end up listening to and supporting, because remember how many people who are positively affected by Beyonce even working with these people, right? Tanner Adele got a deal off of participating in this album. Shabuzi got a deal, became the number one artist with the Tipsy record. Kate Michelle's streams went up. The other ladies that were a part of this album that contributed in the instrumentation and the songwriting, their streams went up on their solo music. So this actually hoisted up an entire ecosystem of black country artists. If I were to do that same thing and replicate that process as a non-R&B artist, and I go into the space and smash and break records, and I do a 27 song album and 23 of those end up in the Hot 100, you think I wouldn't get no R&B awards? That's up to everybody's own observation, right? Miss Dolly Parton continues. So I don't think it was a matter of shutting out, like doing it on purpose. I think it was more of what the country charts and the country artists were doing that do it all the time, not just a specialty album. I think that's Cap as well, because she dominated on the country charts as well. We even saw the country music stations, a couple of them, that were trying to shut her out and basically keep her on the pop stations, although she had country music available for them. Hey, don't shoot the messenger. It is what it is. I'm not saying that we got to be outraged. I'm not saying that we got to kick down the doors for her, because it's just a part of the process. And I think, again, it's just a part of what can be expected when you try to break down barriers, especially when you go into these places that we created, but we allowed other people, other cultures to cultivate and build off of our hard work, our blood, sweat, and tears, and then they make it their own. They don't want to let us back in. I think a lesson is to be learned there with our gatekeeping and our natural resources that are coming from us innately. Hip hop. We see where hip hop has gone. We see where it's been. We see how it's been, perverted, taken, stripped, rebuilt, flushed out over here, whitewashed over here. I think we got to, we've always been a welcome all park for everybody. I think it's about time we may pull back on that just a little bit. That's just how I see it, though, right? We're going to keep going on with the show. We're not going to stay on this all day. We talked the other day about Jay-Z, Dame Dash, and their dispute about Rockefeller and who's going to take what. Dame is being forced to sell his 1/3 share of the company. But in that conversation, Dame came out and said that Jay-Z has been trying to sabotage his sale. He says that, Jay-Z came out and said that his ownership of Reasonable Doubt is supposed to revert back to him in about 6 years. Dame's lawyers and the state of New York said that that was a lie. I now have actual proof of paperwork in which they're stating this is not the case, right? And it's based on the paperwork that Jay-Z, Dame Dash, and Kareem Biggs Burke signed back in 1995 about Reasonable Doubt, because this, again, is the only album that Rockefeller LLC Rockefeller Inc. has under copyright. So this is the main asset that anybody that is going to bid on the company is going to receive. It's the only project. So the entirety of the stakes are being hinged on this. So here we are. I guess I could show it on the screen since I got the documents now. This is something I was looking for. And I'll just put myself in the corner. Y'all give me a second here. Hopefully y'all can still see the writing. I kind of protrude into that a little bit. Hold on. Reposition myself. All right. So this is filed as of September 20th, City of New York Law Department. So they say, Dear Magistrate Judge Leberger, I represent Intervenor, the City of New York, acting by and through the NYC Department of Social Services. Pursuant to your Honor's individual rules of practice, I'm writing to request a premonition conference and a stay of the auction sale by the U.S. Marshal pending a ruling by this court regarding whether Sean Carter, a.k.a. Jay-Z, possesses a right to terminate Rockefeller Records, Inc., their copyright for his album Reasonable Doubt under Copyright Act 203, and whether discovery concerning the valuation of such copyright rights should be allowed. Such relief is warranted because Jay-Z and RAF have each taken actions to the detriment of the judgment's creditors' interests in obtaining the best possible price from the auction sale of defendant Damon Dash's stock interests in RAF, and RAF is Rockefeller Records Incorporated, not LLC. Jay-Z has issued widely publicized statements designed to suppress the perceived value of the stock and bitter interest in the auction, and RAF has refused to provide royalty information in response to a subpoena that is critical and necessary for the valuation of the stock by potential bidders. As this court has already ruled, a judgment creditor need not proceed by special proceeding and may proceed by motion as long as the court has personal jurisdiction over the garnishes. Okay. The city will also likely file motions for turnover orders against RAF and its controlled affiliates in due course. Okay. So they're stating here, the auction should be conducted in the manner that will bring the highest price for the benefit of affected judgment creditors. And I understand now why Dame Dash wants $10 million, because he's about $10 million in debt if you add up his court problems, the lawsuit he's being sued for, his tax bill that's unpaid, and unpaid child support. You add it up, it's somewhere in the upwards of $10 million. So if he gets anything less than that $10 million, then he won't be able to pay off his delinquent money that he's owed. So he wants to get it somewhere in the margin of 10 to break even. And if he could get it over, then he'll actually be able to possibly make some sort of profit. So that's just to give y'all a little bit of extra context as well, which is why they want this to, bring the highest price so that he can make even on his debts. They say Jay-Z's statements to the press have poisoned the environment for the auction. He has claimed that he has a termination right under the Copyright Act and that the rights to reasonable doubt will revert to him in 6 years. In fact, he has no such termination right, and RAF is entitled to the renewal term, which is now 67 years, meaning it will own the copyright rights until the year 2098. We talked about this, but now we have actual documentation that was submitted to the courts rather than just Dame Dash's word of mouth. Okay? Now they say Section 203A of the Copyright Act provides in relevant part that a transfer of a copyright in any work other than a work made for hire executed by the author on or after January 1st, 1978, otherwise than by will, is subject to termination under certain conditions. 17 U.S. Code 203, emphasis added, as the Second Circuit explained in Horror Inc. vs. Miller. The Act creates an exception to the general authorship rule regarding works made for hire. As to those works, the employer or other person for whom the work was prepared is considered the author. Okay? The original creator has no corresponding termination right. Thus, if Jay-Z was RAF's employee when he created Reasonable Doubt, or RAF commissioned the work and Jay-Z willingly transferred all rights to RAF, then it is a work made for hire under the Act, and Jay-Z has no termination right under the Act. Now, let's break that down a little bit as best as I can, because I'm not a legal professional. What they're basically stating is back in 1995, Jay-Z signed a contract with his co-conspirators. Well, let's not say co-conspirators. Let's just say with his homies, business partners, Dame Dash and Biggs. Jay-Z was the artist. They came to him with paperwork when they first started Rockefeller because again, this all happened because no major label wanted Jay-Z at that time. They were taking demos, they were taking early drafts of what ended up on Reasonable Doubt, and no label thought that he was good enough, right? So then they started their own company and decided to do it independently, to which they went to, I believe, Relativity. Okay? So, and that was for distribution. So they came to him, and I guess he signed, because he didn't know any better. This is not the Jay-Z of 2024. This is Jay-Z of 1995, who was having his first foray into the music business. Of course, he had done features and appeared in other people's music videos prior to this, but he never had a record deal. He didn't go to any type of, music school. He didn't go to college for music business. None of these guys did, but Dame was actually a manager in the music industry since the late 80s, right? So he at least had some form of understanding of how contracts work in the industry. So he said, hey, this is going to be a work for hire. So typically what you do in a work for hire, and it's just like any other art form or anything like that, you typically would pay the creator of said work a flat rate for the work. And from that moment forward, they would not be entitled to any further rights, right? They have no say so in how that work gets exploited. They just deliver it, they get paid, you move forward. So because Jay-Z was allegedly just a work for hire, he has no say so in how the copyright gets renewed, because that's the problem, is the renewal of the copyright gives them an extra 67 years of ownership. Jay says it will revert back to him due to common copyright law, where he was supposed to get it back after 35 years. But unfortunately, they're saying no, because a renewal has taken place and we don't need your consent in order to enforce this renewal, because at the time when you made this album, you were strictly a work for hire. Even though he was also a partner in the Rockefeller business, apparently he was on, I don't understand why he doesn't have the say so in that as Sean Carter. Jay-Z, the artist, doesn't have any say so, but what about Sean Carter as 1/3 owner? That's where things get weird for me. But again, this is the paperwork that we have thus far. So he may be able to come out and prove otherwise, but it would take documentation that states it. Let's keep going. Jay-Z has issued widely publicized statements warning potential bidders that copyright ownership will revert back to him in 2031. And then they show links of these statements being shared in the press. Those statements are false and extremely damaging to the city's interests in ensuring that the auction will generate sufficient funds to satisfy all existing child support arrearages and secure future child support payments. Under these circumstances, the court should stay the auction. All right, so here's the agreement, the RAF Jay-Z agreement. In 1995, RAF Inc. and Jay-Z inked a record deal under which RAF Inc. would own, among other things, the masters and the LP from the inception of the recording thereof and all phonograph records and other reproductions made therefrom, together with the performances embodied therein and all copyrights therein and thereto, excluding the copyright in the underlying compositions, which is the writing of the music and the musical notes that create the beats, right? And the melodies. That is a totally different thing. That is in the publishing space. So Jay-Z is entitled to his publishing copyright, but not the master copyright, at least not entirely, right? And they say throughout the world, and all renewals and extensions thereof shall be entirely our property, free of any claims whatsoever by you and any other person, firm, or corporation, right? So they're saying the business owns the right to renew, not Jay-Z. Jay-Z submitted a sworn declaration stating that RAF owns the copyright and all rights, title, and interest to my album Reasonable Doubt, including without limitation the right to sell, record, reproduce, broadcast, transmit, exhibit, distribute, advertise, and exploit the album. The agreement on its face precludes any argument by Jay-Z that he has a termination right and that the work is not a work made for hire. Okay, Section 401 expressly states, as between Jay-Z and Rockefeller, all masters embodied on the LP and all masters re-recorded hereunder from the inception of the recording thereof shall, for purposes of copyright law, be deemed works made for hire but for us, by you, and all other persons rendering services in connection with those masters are our employees for hire. We shall accordingly have the exclusive right to obtain registration of copyright and all renewals and extensions in those masters and the LP in our name as the owner and author thereof. Right? So furthermore, they say request for discovery. NYCDSS served an administrative subpoena on Roc Nation LLC requesting royalty information. They sought a lengthy extension, which was denied, and then served a dilatory response asserting frivolous objections and alleging that it has no such records, despite the fact that Jay-Z and other controlled affiliates control all exploitation of copyright rights. The subpoena and Roc Nation's response are collectively annexed here too as Exhibit B. So what I don't understand here is how is it that Roc Nation has all of this royalty? Well, I'm sure they have royalty information because they're distributing this stuff today. But how do they have all control of all exploitation of copyright rights for this particular album? Because they're looking for the current range of royalties that he's receiving or that his company's receiving off this album, when the original Rockefeller company are the sole owners. So I'm trying to understand how there was a transfer from Rockefeller Inc. to Roc Nation if Dame never approved it, or if it was, you know what I'm saying? So it's stuff in here that makes this contentious. And again, it's going to take for Jay-Z and Roc Nation to come to the table with their own documentation to explain this, because on one side of it, from the city of New York, they're saying that Jay-Z will have no say in how this work is exploited. But at the end of it, they're saying that Roc Nation has copyright control. So which one is it? I don't know. But what I do know is that motherfucker expressly says he was a work for hire on his own album, which I would never agree to. But of course, again, he didn't know because this is his first album and he wasn't signed to any other label prior to that happening. So that goes to show you, I think that's why Jay-Z has made a lot of the decisions that he's made throughout his career, is because he essentially got taken advantage of in that agreement. That's how I see it. Especially when you're dealing with your friends should never set you up to do a work for hire. Now, I did see my homie in the comments that was like, well, they basically stopped him from double dipping, because had he had ownership of the master, ownership of the company, and ownership of the publishing, he would have been entitled to more royalties and more money than the other two contributors, as in Dame Dash and Biggs. But as the artist, as an executive in the company, and the writer of the music, he earned that. Unfortunately, that's not what he signed on. But again, this is back in 1995. Artists were not as savvy as some of them are today, right? So we're gonna have to see how that thing pans out. But I'm glad I was able to actually see the paperwork that they're talking about, rather than just going off of what Jay is saying in the press and what Dame is saying on Instagram, right? So we'll see how that thing continues to move forward, because they still haven't conducted the auction. It still has not been sold. We'll see how that works out. All right. And last but not least, what I want to get into is Miss Young Miami. All right. We're not going to be on this very long, but I told y'all the other day, another brand new lawsuit on Diddy has been released by Jane Doe. This Jane Doe is from Florida. And we talked about how Diddy allegedly took advantage of her, drugged her. Same stuff that people are alleging in pretty much all of Diddy's lawsuits, right? However, in this particular Jane Doe situation, this woman at some point was impregnated by Diddy. right? And these are pretty recent interactions between the year of 2020 to 2024. 2024 was the last time that she engaged with Diddy in any kind of way. I believe it was a few months ago. So this is all new stuff. This ain't from 20 years ago. This ain't from when he was at Uptown. This is all shit that happened from the pandemic on up. So in her lawsuit, when she got pregnant, the Jane Doe here is alleging that Young Miami was harassing her. This is the second time, to my knowledge, that Young Miami has been mentioned in a lawsuit. She was in Lil Rod's lawsuit. And she didn't play like a significant role in Lil Rod's lawsuit, but she was definitely implicated in terms of perhaps being a sex worker for Diddy and transporting illicit drugs for Diddy, and her alleged cousin forced herself on Lil Rod trying to perform oral sex on him, which he was not open to receiving from this person, right? Now we've got more on Young Miami, where they saying that she actively participated in threatening and harassing this woman. All right. So they say the incident allegedly transpired at Diddy's Los Angeles home, where the woman claimed she was forced to ingest ketamine and other drugs before blacking out. She lost consciousness intermittently throughout the evening and shortly after took a pregnancy test. When Jane Doe told Diddy she was indeed pregnant, the lawsuit reads that Caresha Brownlee, aka Young Miami, harassed Jane Doe by repeatedly calling her and telling her to have an abortion. The woman ultimately ended up having a miscarriage. I will say it again. The Jane Doe claims she first met Diddy overseas in 2020 and was invited to join him on an all-expense-paid trip. From there, the woman claims she felt pressured to see Diddy once a month between 21 and 22. Diddy's team would allegedly appear with a car with no warning to take her to his homes in LA, New York, Miami, and elsewhere. The victim claims at times they would use coercive and harassing language to allegedly pressure her to go to him. All right. So Young Miami came out here earlier this year. She did that whole fucking Saucy Santana, the return of Caresha Please, right? She made it seem like she didn't know nothing about what's going on. She didn't speak on it. She talked a little bit about the relationship and the breakup and all that shit, but she didn't get into details, which I'm not saying she should have, because she would have definitely been prone to make a mistake. She's not the best public speaker, but it seems that your role within this operation is a little bit deeper than what you've let on. And to be honest, I've kind of taken up for you, Miami, on my channel. I've tried to, mitigate some of the allegations when people say that you were his madam, when people say that you were his enforcer among the women, and that you were just as involved. I said, hey, we don't have proof of that. We don't know that. Let me not put that on her name. Let me not put that on her jacket. I got to see more. Maybe she was pressured. Maybe she was, maybe she was one of his sex workers. Maybe she was, under his rule. You know what I'm saying? As so many others were under his rule and had to move according to the way that he wanted due to threats or physical violence. But now it sounds like you're acting on his behalf and carrying out his dirty work, which again could be under his rule as well. But I wasn't willing to put none of that on your jacket until people started actually saying it. Now it's looking a little funny in the light. I think you might be forced to answer to this. Maybe not to us publicly, but in court. Oh, shit. This thing about to get real Diddy dirty money. Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Become an insider. I will catch y'all on the next one. Much love and respect, y'all. Peace.
King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rag. Leading my people like quarterback. Boy, I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef on computers, I'm straight out the sewer, we come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest, but drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they doubted me. All of a sudden they tell me they proud of me. I been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some boundaries. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. Wanna catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.